everyone, and thank you for dropping in to the Fleur de Lis Services Healing Channel. I'm your host, Todd Dobson, and today we are walking through a couple of examples of healing journal entries. What you want to write, what you want to respond to, and how a healing journal entry will look and feel as you go back through it to do the healing work at a later point in time. Excellent. Let's get started. All right. First example, a triggering event. This occurred to me in a past job. A national insurance carrier hired me as a senior director. I was replacing a vice president who had been with the company for over 25 years. He created the technology teams while his primary focus was actually on the business side. He had given his notice of retirement and the company was eager to confirm a date with him. Let's call this vice president Mike. I was hired to stabilize a legacy distributed network application, which was one of the reasons this insurance company bought a regional competitor. The secondary task was to help architect a new ecosystem to replace a legacy distributed network and a mainframe environment that were equally old and high costly to maintain. Before my first day, the company's senior leadership had the distributed network environment audited by an outside third party, Sarbanes-Oxley, or SOX, compliance company. The environment failed the audit by over 80%. Had I been able to start my position first, I could have informed leadership that it would fail because Mike was not a technology leader. He was a businessman who did not establish development or quality assurance standards. Nothing was documented, and the development team made changes directly in live production environments. This contributed to the environment crashing multiple times per day. Within the first few weeks, I rallied the team around me, their new IT leader, and we stabilized the present or current environment. We added notifications so that we would know in advance of the constantly crashing environment. I did this while reviewing the audit findings and documenting a remediation strategy and timeline. Mike was furious that within such a short time, I could get the team members he hired to follow me rather than look to him for guidance. His ego couldn't handle this, and he disagreed with what I was doing because he didn't understand how a technology leader would focus on the issues and resolve them at their root causes rather than temporarily patching them. Mike searched for a reason to get rid of me, but he kept finding roadblocks until one of the tech support staff members took my phone and iPad to install VPN software and apps on them, thereby allowing me to gain access to internal systems. This person looked at my phone and iPad and found some gay social apps, and he of course informed Mike. Mike discovered what he sought all along, a reason to eliminate me. He said, and I quote, "I'm not leaving over 25 years of my life's work to a faggot." Mike made a deal directly with the CEO, bypassing the VP of IT and the Chief Technology Officer, or CTO. If the CEO removed me from the company, Mike agreed to retire by the end of that year. He gave the company what they wanted, so they laid me off without a question. The VP of IT and the CTO argued against this action because I was heading towards the technology goals we had established when I was hired. Mike's hate drove me from another great job when I was effectively doing it well. The Healing Journal entry on 9/28 at 6:18 p.m. I documented as follows. the emotional patterns. The bitterness of betrayal was the only thing I tasted from the moments I woke up until the seconds before passing out at night. I am angry, frustrated, and enraged at the events. The rage I feel towards Mike in the homophobic, smug way he orchestrated my corporate demise is all based on his ego, his need to control, and even the lack of regret within him. These were all vile and repulsive traits. I felt defeated because of the continuation of a similar pattern that had plagued me since my mid-20s. This was a recurring pattern that persisted and was worsening. Answers to questions. Is this emotional pattern felt within the body? Does it have a color, a shape, a texture, a sound, and does it say something? It wasn't like I felt a shape or that it had a color. It was all-consuming, black, and sticky or soupy. It felt as if I could not escape the muck or its sensation. I felt hurt, betrayed, because everything I was orchestrating wasn't heard or understood, and it didn't matter. The company sacrificed me to get rid of their problem without a care for the personal cost to me. I feel angry and enraged because they won't listen to me and have their own agenda. A voice kept repeating, "They don't care about me. You are worthless. You are a worthless piece of shit that won't amount to anything," which proved that it was programming, because this was a statement that my family, my father, mother, Ken, Juanita, and brother Kenny stated to me often during my childhood and teen years. Has this emotional pattern been felt before? If so, how often do you feel this emotional pattern? Detail what happened in that first event. Yes, the emotional pattern had been felt previously and numerous times. The first occurrence was when I was 20 years old and a food and beverage manager for Marriott Host, managing over 150 team members in an $8.4 million operation. One of the bartenders was caught drinking on the job. I found out later that another food and beverage manager knew and allowed this behavior because he sold her and others drugs at work. I wrote her up in accordance with company policies, but she filed a complaint with HR and lied about everything in that complaint. This first experience with her gutted me because while I was firm with her, I was extremely fair. She claimed that I hated her because she was a lesbian. That was laughable because she did not know, nor did Marriott HR know, that I was a gay man. Yes, this trigger and emotional pattern are happening repeatedly. Yes, I am ready to heal this emotional pattern. Healing this will eliminate trauma and several negative programs that have been running since I was 20 years old. I performed required healing, and the trauma, multiple negative programs, and one negative belief systems were addressed, healed, and released. All right, let's move on to example number 2, a triggering event by a customer service representative by the name of Rose. This is a made-up fictional name, all right, but the details that we cover are what she documented. The preface. Rose is a customer service representative at a major retailer who takes calls for 8 to 9.5 hours daily. She's been working to heal herself for over 10 years and is well acquainted with what triggering means and can identify when she is being triggered extremely readily. This is her account of when she was triggered while handling a customer's issue. I was taking calls like I do daily. I love my work because I can work from home, allowing me to spend much needed time with my children. My flexible schedule enables me to be available for my children as needed, and I can work as many hours as I want. Whenever I'm available, I need to work 35 hours per week to cover our insurance benefits. Sometimes, if my children have a lot happening, like at the beginning of a school year, I can only work 35 hours. However, when I can work 40 to 50 hours, I am assured as many hours as possible. This flexibility is why I love my job. Helping people make the job just makes it worthwhile. My healing journal entry my healing journey has been underway for over 20 years. The more I heal, the more compassionate and sincere I am with others. Mainly when they are triggered or triggered by the time I receive them, these skills enable me to work effectively with customers when customers get to me. They may already be triggered or angry. I think of a time when something similar happened to me. I would react as enraged as this customer is to me. And I ask myself, what did I need to hear to calm down? This is how I base my response to them. It works almost every time. I was on a call with a complaining customer, but he wasn't angry. He was saying some pointed things, but holding himself together well and not just lashing out. I was impressed because it was clear to me that he had been doing his inner reflection and healing work. I was caught off guard when what he said triggered me. He said that I was following a script or a checklist and had reached the limits of my ability to help him, and he requested a supervisor. The words following a script, a checklist, shockingly triggered me, and it took a fair amount of healing work with the help of others to fully understand what and why. I found myself angry, enraged, and barely able to contain it. The customer noticed my anger and rage, and his tone and speech elevated, as did my own. I later felt terrible that I had been so caught off guard by something that seemed so innocent, yet had triggered me so severely. I needed to hand the call off, so I escalated it to a supervisor, and I had to take some time to breathe through the pain, the anger, and the rage I was feeling at that moment. As soon as I was able to catch my breath, I documented within my healing journal the following entries. 8/20/2022 at 8:32 p.m. The emotional pattern. I am feeling severe anger and rage that boiled over quickly. I felt betrayed and hollow, shocked and expecting something negative next. The rage seemed to be uncontrollable. Was there a color, a shape? I felt a deep red and black spike in my head and a dark black soup-like substance in my heart. Has this emotional pattern been experienced before, and when was the first time it was felt? I asked, has this emotional pattern occurred before? The response was an instant yes. I continued by asking, when did I first feel the emotional pattern? The immediate response was 5 years old. I could sense that it had to be an early 5 years old, or that I was weak, scrawny, and not able to take care of myself. After my work schedule, I followed up on these details with the Melchizedek healing methodology. In the meditation, I saw that when I was 5 years old, a 5-year-old girl, I drew my mother a birthday card. It was a surprise for her. I took the card I had worked on for 2 days and climbed onto the kitchen counter to get a Hostess cupcake. I placed the card on the counter, dragged a chair from the table, and climbed onto the chair and the kitchen counter when my mother came around the kitchen corner. She started yelling at me. "What the hell are you doing? Are you trying to get more cupcakes, you fat pig?" I was trying to tell her as I pointed to the card I made, but she continued yelling at me. "You're a lazy, good-for-nothing fat pig. You won't ever attract a husband because you're dumb, ignorant, and ugly." She kicked the chair and I fell to the floor. My right leg hurt and I sat there crying when she swung her arm back and hit me across the side of my head. She kept yelling, "Stupid fat pig," as I got myself up and ran to my bedroom. I never gave her the card I made, but I found it in the trash the following morning. The traumatic events were tied to negative programming that lasted my entire youth, or until I left for college. I continued the healing steps so that I could address, release, and then forgive both these events and the compounding pain and negative programming I found within this trauma. These events were lost to me until I could review them within a healing session. I was grateful for viewing them as I let them pass through me, releasing them. They no longer needed to remain bound within me, and I no longer wanted these emotions and programming suppressed. I let them go as I forgave my mother and myself for these events. I fully understand that my mother had many faults, and the abuse she inflicted on me was a replication and an exaggeration of what she suffered through. That was familial negative programming that was passed throughout the lineage. But I abruptly stopped the cycles of abuse as I healed and retained myself from all negative programming. Okay, thank you everyone. In our next healing vlog, we will review the Melchizedek grounding meditation. This is for grounding and running energy. We will discuss what grounding is and why you need to ground and why you want to run energy through you. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great and wonderful day.